Now more than ever, video games are able to get away with portrayal of more violence and stereotypes than ever before, pushing the boundaries as to what's deemed socially acceptable. This begs the question as to what effect these video games' transgressions are having on the players of the games themselves and on society in general. This is obviously quite a broad topic, but I'm going to explore the main debates that have been focused on with this research, particularly looking at whether playing these games is a form of personal entertainment and a form of escapism, and also the effect that this has on real life, whether this violence could be carried out or lead to more aggression or potentially pro-social behaviour. I've decided to take Grand Theft Auto 5, or as I'll be referring it to as GTA 5, as my kind of case study video game, as it's the most popular video game of the last decade, as well as having more research done on the effects of the in-game transgressions of women and of everyone in society. The premise of the game is set up in Los Angeles in America, which has the whole map of the city. So I think it's a good stimulus for research into the way it shows real life, and I think that the research done into the effects of the transgressive acts in the game is also applicable to transgressions that occur in other video games and to real life as well. So that's what I'll be focusing on in this video essay. So, as you can see from the trailer, the main kind of form of personal entertainment and attraction of the game is violence, where this is against women, the police, and the general public. This violence also takes many forms, in the case of sexual violence against women, torture and abuse. And this violence, taking GTA as an example, it's been theorised as being enjoyable or pleasurable to the gamers of this, as this behaviour wouldn't be able to be expressed in real life without consequences. And there's been a focus on this virtual identity. This virtual identity, when taking on, for example, in GTA, the character of Michael, the main protagonist, allows the gamer to have a loss of agency, where the gamer can channel transgressive acts through the character of Michael or the other characters in GTA 5 and not feel accountable for transgressive acts they carry out. As well as a loss of agency towards violence, there's this virtual identity allows a loss of agency towards transgressions against women. For example, the clip behind me shows the main protagonist to mistreat and sexualise prostitutes. In addition to this over-sexualised and objectifying representation of women seen here, GTA 5 is a very much male-dominated game. For example, the women in GTA only tend to play minor roles, and these often have stereotypes such as the nagging wife of the main protagonist and the self-obsessed teenage girl. And this is applicable to video games as a genre. Adding on to this argument about how in-game transgressions such as violence and sexism real-life implications, Coyne and Stockdale found that the impact of violent video games on aggressive behaviour across 10 years led to less pro-social behaviours from the participants and an increase in aggression. Having looked at the transgressive acts themselves, such as violence and the over-sexualised portrayal of women, it only seems natural to look at research into what effect being exposed to these transgressive acts in video games has on the gamer itself. Research into the appeal of video games has found that when adopting these virtual identities, the gamer is able to try on different aspects and ideal aspects of life and the self that they may not be able to express in real life, which is a healthy release for the gamer. In addition, it's been argued that there's a loss of agency for the player when carrying out a transgressive act in-game, and they are able to recognise that the characters in the game, like GTA with Michael, this is socially unacceptable behaviour and that it is just a form of personal entertainment. Having this form of escapism for the gamer is to carry out these transgressive acts has also been found in some instances to have a positive effect on pro-social behaviour. Research has found that video game players are more likely to intervene in a harassment situation in real life. Examples of these aspects that gamers try on include theft, police brutality, and in more extreme cases of torture like shown above. On the contrary, transgressions through personal entertainment, like video games, still have real-life negative effect on the gamers themselves. Take, for instance, the copycat effect, researched by HealthGot, which makes the argument of seeing these transgressive behaviours in games like GTA, that being exposed to in-game transgressions would shape real-life personality. Although some researchers found that acting out transgressions through games can be a healthy form of escapism, for example, the research into increase of pro-social behaviour, there is no denying that these games do shape real-life identity. This has been theorised with the Proteus effect, which researched the effect to which playing these games can shape the player's view of the world. Being exposed to transgressions through games like GTA, the gamer becomes desensitised to these transgressions. Games reward the player for carrying out these transgressions in game, which makes the transgressive act seem more gratifying to them and gives them intrinsic motivation to carry them out in real life. The video shown highlights this desensitisation as being exposed to these in-game transgressions shapes the gamer's real-life identity as it becomes more difficult for the gamer to separate these in-game transgressions to real-life ones. There's also research support for this effect. Coyne and Stockdale found that over 10 years, players of violent video games often had high levels of aggression, which were predictive of violence. On the contrary, there has been criticism of research into the effects of video game transgressions. Video game research is a relatively new phenomena, which makes it more complex to study. And there has been argument from other research, such as Coyne and Stockdale mentioned, that there's publication bias towards violence in video games, as this research doesn't account for individual variation of the effects of these transgressions. Video games are also complex to study. The virtual worlds, such as the ones in GTA, are so complex that the true effects that this has on the gamer, whether it be overstated or not, are still complex to study because there's so much to account for. There's still been no conclusive causal link between the effect of video games transgressions on the gamer. So I'd definitely say that more research needs to be done in this field. So to conclude, in-game transgressions can have positive and negative impacts on identities and personalities of the gamer. We've seen that violence in video games can lead to some transgressions of violence in real life. However, it can also have a positive impact on pro-social behaviour. Being exposed to a game which focuses on male-dominated violence and crime can have negative real-life implications on the gamer's identity. However, it is also a form of escapism for other gamers and can lead to an increase in some pro-social behaviour. The ways in which video game transgressions shape real-life identity and personality are supported by theories like the copycat effect and the Proteus effect, as well as research into the longitudinal effects of in-game transgressions that we've seen through research into violence. Reflecting on video game transgressions more generally, GTA 5 is a useful case study for in-game transgressions, seeing that it is the most popular and has appeared to have the strongest effect on real-life identity. Other games are also useful in exploring this. Fortnite has emerged as one of the more popular games, as well as Call of Duty, which has more research into the longitudinal effects of violence. I think research into this field should try and focus on solutions to reducing the effects of in-game transgressions, maybe starting with not gratifying or rewarding transgressions like violence and sexism, looking towards the future, and also more sensitivity and awareness to the impact of an emergence of video game culture.